Senator Skelos, thank you very much for joining us. It's
Nice
good
to
to
be
see
with
you in a real capacity, unlike the LCA
Well, the
show.
LCA show was great.
Yes, it was good, and thank you very much for participating. We appreciate it. So let's start with, obviously, the Governor's People First tour. You put out a statement when he first went out yesterday, lauding him on the property tax cap. That was before he actually spoke, I believe. His speech was quite strong. He lambasted the legislature and really took you to task, saying people should say, pass my bills or don't come home. What did you think of that?
Well, I think number one, just to reinforce the fact that we passed the governor's program bill.
Right.
My concern right now is that the governor is looking to water the bill down where it does not become meaningful, yet say that I'm for the hard property tax cap and somehow blaming us even though we've already passed this program bill. We went through that with Governor Patterson 3 years ago, where the Senate came back special session, gave us a special session bill, we passed it, and then he blamed the Republicans for passing it. So we've passed the hard property tax cap. We've passed it on a number of occasions. We understand people need property tax relief. And really what the governor should be doing is calling on Speaker Silver to pass his bill.
Okay, the only thing that's confusing to me is that you and I have both been around Albany for long enough to know that what you're suggesting is not a negotiation. What you're saying is that we have this position and we're hard and fast on it and we won't move because I understand that you don't want to water things down, but it looks like then nothing will happen in the end.
Well, I don't believe that. I believe something will happen. I think but the governor should exert his leadership and convince the Democrat leadership in the Assembly, their fellow Democrats, to pass the bill. Republicans have been supportive of the governor's position.
But you don't think going out on the hustings and holding these big speeches and decrying the legislature is using the bully pulpit is leadership?
Well, I think that what he should be doing right now is calling down individual Assembly members and saying, I need your support. I need you to pass the bill.
In private, you mean? In private?
Yeah, do it privately. You know, bring that conference in. That's what he should be doing. But going around the state threatening people or the legislature or condemning the legislature, you know, that's not the model we use to get an early budget. The model we used to get an early budget was talking with each other, acting responsibly, toning down the rhetoric, and we got an early budget.
Well, he did go around the state for the budget too, did he not?
But not this seems to be a little bit more harsh than the budget negotiations. You know, the budget negotiations, the governor has a tremendous amount of power. When you get into the legislative side, that's when there's a balance of power, and you're talking about public policy, and the legislature is part of that process. But unfortunately, I think we're getting the sense that the governor wants it, you know, all his way, and that it's not even a bicameral legislature. It's going to be just what Governor Cuomo wants.
Okay,
that's not the way we operate.
Okay, I mean, there was a governor who did this. His name was Eliot Spitzer. He went around the state, and he actually singled out individual lawmakers, which is not what Andrew Cuomo has done yet. He has just said, writ large, the legislature is, you know, fraught with scandal, hasn't been able to police itself. Today, of course, the topic is ethics reform. Yesterday, property tax cap. Do you believe that this is a Spitzer-esque technique?
I think he's sort of moving in that direction, and it didn't work, as we saw with Governor Spitzer. I'm a firm believer in consensus, talking, working things through. I've told the governor on a number of occasions that the legislature has a process that we have to go through.
But he has those poll numbers. I mean, the poll numbers are astronomical. Quite clearly, he's very popular, whereas the legislature is not. Well,
he's very popular, and I'm very popular in my district. Legislators run in their districts, right? So if you ask a generic question, about the legislature, it may be somewhat negative. I think it's wrong, but it may be somewhat negative. But if you go into my district, my numbers are going to be pretty good.
So have you?
Because I've developed a relationship with my constituents. Members have done that, and there is a trust factor that we're going, in the end, to do the right thing, but we're elected to be part of the process. It's just not a dictates from the governor as to what he wants. But again, the issue here is go back to the model that we used when we passed an early budget.
Okay, well, during the budget, you spent a lot of time talking about how the Senate Republicans and the governor were allied. Now it looks like that alliance might be over. Is the alliance over?
Well, I don't know why, because we've passed his cap. We supported him on the budget. The number of other issues, rent, there are going to be some differences there, but we'll work our way through it. But the property tax cap, you know, it's hard for me to understand how we can criticize Republicans when we've passed his bill.
Are you?
Now, if he wants negotiations on the property tax cap, that means he wants to water it down.
Are you willing to trade the Assembly Democrats' property tax cap for as is, which I don't think that they're willing to do, but let's say that they were, for rent reform, for rent extension and strengthening of the rent laws?
You know, one of the things that about rent regulations and stuff that people sometimes don't focus on, you're talking about a person's private property. So the government is going to come in and regulate or over-regulate what you can do with your own private property. Now, if you live in upstate communities, for example, where there's no rent regulations necessarily, if you need affordable housing and you're getting ready to sell your house for $150,000, is it right for government to come in and say you can only get $75,000 because we need affordable housing?
Government regulates things all the time, regulates all sorts of things.
But this is about regulating somebody's personal property. Now, if you're getting certain government benefits, sure, then there are things that government has the right to step in on. But we will work our way through all of these issues, but we don't need the negativity that's coming out of the governor's office right now.
Okay, so let's talk then about ethics reform. That's his topic today.
Right.
What's the holdup? Where's the bill?
Because we're working with the governor to get a negotiated bill done, and we will get a bill done at some point before we leave session.
And it would have, for example, he's talking about disclosure of outside income. It will have that in there.
I've disclosed my outside income.
But specifically, for example, your client list, I know we've had this conversation before, but you are also an attorney. There are a lot of elected officials who are in the legislature who are attorneys.
Right.
And the possibility that they might have a conflict of interest when they're voting is a problem for voters.
Yeah, and I have no problem disclosing where there are, potential conflicts. We're going to work our way through that. But we're also going to work our way through tightening up disclosure and ethics for the executive branch, too. And we're working on that, too.
I'm sorry, what does that mean exactly?
The executive branch?
Well, I know who the executive branch is.
There seems to be a focus always on the legislature. But we think there can be also a tightening up of ethics on the executive level, too. And we're working with some suggestions that we're going to come out for the governor about improving the ethics on the second floor.
Well, that's fascinating. Like what, for example?
Well, we're working on it.
Well, would it have to do with the governor's disclosure of relationships for people that he might appoint to committees, for example, like the Medicaid task force?
We are working on it as a working project, but we'll get it done.
Okay, interesting. Well, when will we see that?
Probably within the next 2 weeks.
And this is something you're negotiating with the governor, or you're going to put out?
No, we're going to put it out.
Okay.
We're going to put it out.
Don't you think that he's going to take that as like upping the ante a little bit? I mean,
no,
that seems.
It's not upping the ante. It's that if there's going to be the transparency that the governor's calling about and the ethics reform, this can apply to all levels of government, including the executive branch.
Okay, and the third piece of this sort of trio of post-budget agenda items for the governor is, of course, gay marriage. Last year, during the campaign, you said you remain a no, but you would tell your conference that you think that the bill, such as it is, we don't have one yet from the governor, although the Assembly, Danny O'Donnell, is reintroducing his bill, that you think it should come to the floor. I've spoken to a couple of your members. Some of them say, sure, why not? Some of them don't want to talk about it. Will it come to the floor?
My recommendation, as I've said all along to the conference, is that there should be a vote on the bill, but this will be subject to the conference, and we have not discussed it yet.
When will you discuss it?
We will discuss it within the next couple of weeks and have an opportunity to air it out well before the end of session. And then the decision will be made. But we also have to, and I've indicated to the governor, I don't know if the votes are here in the Senate Republican side, but I also don't know what votes are there on the Senate Democrat side.
Well, but we
last year they looked to put the bill out.
Sure.
And we were told that they had the votes, it was going to pass, and the first person, Joe Adavo, came out and said no, and that was the end of it.
Okay, but do you need to know who's got what votes? I mean, I know the tradition in Albany has always been
because
we knew, but we've seen that change.
Many of the advocates for marriage really don't want the bill to come out and fail if the votes are not there. So I don't know at this point, Liz, whether there are any Republican votes for it right now. There may be some, but I've always said that this is a vote of conscience, and I continue to say this to the conference. We have not fully aired it out in our conference, but I indicated just the other day I want to start thinking about it and where their conscience and their beliefs are on this issue.
I guess it's unclear to me why it mattered how Joe Adabo voted that influenced subsequently your conference. Was it because you think members of your conference didn't want to be the people to push the bill into the yes column?
No, the commitment from the Senate Dems to the advocates was they had the votes, that they didn't need the Republican votes. Or if they needed any,
well, that would have required the entire, right? That would have required the entire conference.
They indicated, I think they were indicating that they knew there were a couple of no votes in their conference, but also the fact that they had Republicans that were voting for it. So I think they just threw things out in the air and really didn't know where they were at.
Do you think Senator Joyne feels like people betrayed him by saying that they would vote yes and then changing their votes later? Do you believe that happened?
I don't know if people betrayed him, but that's how they voted.
And okay, so what if you were to game it out at this point? Would you believe that it would pass?
I don't know.
Do you think that what the National Organization for Marriage and the state Conservative Party is doing by threatening primaries or unendorsing people is appropriate?
You know, everybody has the right to do what they want to do. But this is a vote of conscience, and just like there have been various issues, whether it's death penalty, whether it's been the issue of abortion, there are certain issues that are truly votes of conscience and strong personal beliefs, and I think that should be respected. You know, some of these issues are not, necessarily should there be a fee increase from $15 to $25. And you compromise out at $20. I mean, this is a emotional issue, and I understand it on both sides. And so ultimately, we'll make a decision whether it comes out to the floor and whether it passes or fails. But it's going to be a vote of conscience. I'm not twisting arms one way or the other.
Well, fascinating. We will see, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. I want to thank you very much, Majority Leader Skelos. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Liz.